Have you ever wanted to look after an advanced android infant while drifting through the freezing void of outer space on a broken lunar outpost, all while wondering if your expensive computer graphics card is about to burst into actual flames? That is the chaotic package we are unpacking today as we dive into a universe where AI has completely lost its mechanical mind and human beings have left the building. This massive arrival landed right when the gaming world was already screaming for mercy from a pile of huge releases such as the tactical warfare of Pokemon Champions, the dark cyberpunk streets of Replaced, and the endless looting hours of Diablo 4 Lord of Hatred expansion. It was a chaotic month where human bank accounts went to die and the general public collectively decided that sleeping was an optional luxury. Welcome to Nullplayer Paradox. I am Castigator and today we are putting Pragmata through the weighted reality check of dynamic categories. Let us begin by addressing the raw machinery under the hood, because Capcom decided to build this adventure on their famous Reach for the Moon engine, or as the cool kids call it, the RE engine. If you are playing on Windows, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5, or the shiny Nintendo Switch 2, you are in for a highly interesting technical ride. I pushed my computer straight to the absolute edge by shoving everything to maximum settings, turning on DLSS to DLAA, activating frame generation on automatic, and throwing both ray tracing and path tracing into the mix. The results were mostly beautiful. The game delivers flawless, silky smooth performance almost all the time, which is a miracle given the graphical weight. However, it is not a perfect paradise. You will encounter very rare frame drops and occasional stuttering that will remind you that your computer is still mortal. The real annoyance happens when you enter the various menus while interacting with stations inside the shelter area. The game suddenly acts like it is trying to think through thick layer of digital glue, lagging and nearly getting completely stuck for a few moments, which is a bizarre contrast to how beautifully it runs when you are actually moving around. Speaking of technical headaches, the situation with bugs and stability is thankfully a pleasant surprise. Though it has its own unique quirks, I did not experience a single crash to the desktop, and major game breaking bugs were completely absent during my total playtime of 11 hours and 27 minutes. But the game still managed to test my patience in the shelter. There was a moment during a firmware upgrade at the shelter where the interface temporarily froze while I had to hold down the button. I had to let go of the button, step away, and try a second time, which luckily worked without further issues. The menus inside the shelter frequently lag, which seems to happen possibly because the game tries to play smaller background videos inside the user interface, causing the system to choke on its own visual elements. Worse still, you will notice frequent stuttering and short freezes lasting a few seconds during the heavy cutscenes of the ending story sequences. It is quite annoying to have a deeply cinematic moment ruined because the engine decides to take a quick afternoon nap. Fortunately, you will forget all about those technical hiccups the moment you put your hands on the controller because the controls are absolute perfection. Capcom crafted an amazing, highly engaging control scheme that manages to feel deep without requiring you to have 20 fingers or an advanced degree in piano performance. It is simple to pick up, smooth to execute, and holds together perfectly during the most chaotic moments of the game. There is honestly nothing bad to say about the controls. It flows naturally from your brain to your fingers, avoiding the typical clunky physics that usually plague third-person action titles where you feel like you are driving a wet shopping cart.
It's on now. Take this.
The narrative driving this cosmic babysitting simulator is an incredibly intriguing story that boasts a great plot and wonderful presentation. The story moves along at a great pace, tossing good twists and hidden surprises at you when you least expect them, leading up to a highly emotional ending that wraps up the entire mystery in a deeply satisfying way. The writing has a massive amount of Hideo Kojima DNA injected straight into its veins, which becomes incredibly obvious during the dramatic introduction of the boss fights. If there is a complaint to be made, it is simply that the main story does not feature a wide cast of characters. It is a very lonely journey, but to be completely fair, this scarcity serves the mysterious plot perfectly because you are supposed to feel isolated on a dead rock. The auditory presentation is another absolute triumph that needs to be celebrated. The sound design is awesome, pairing top tier voiceovers with incredible sound effects that make every weapon blast and mechanical crunch feel heavy and impactful. There are no silent errors or mismatched audio cues to pull you out of the experience. It is a flawless soundscape that perfectly captures the creepy, sterile atmosphere of an abandoned space facility. The environments where you spend your time are beautifully detailed, unique areas that are perfectly sized, avoiding the curse of being a massive, empty wasteland or a claustrophobic hallway. The areas are nicely interconnected and easy enough to traverse, making exploration feel rewarding rather than a boring chore. I especially fell in love with the design of the main hub known as the shelter and how logically everything is placed inside it. There is a rotating suit section that looks fantastic, and I loved how every single unlock modification or weapon is physically displayed right in the tram area where you equip yourself before heading out into the danger zone. There is zero negative padding here, it is just pure world design genius. When it comes to the actual gameplay loop, it centers around a unique dual character control system where you manage both characters simultaneously from a third person perspective. Hugh Williams handles the traditional physical combat using heavy firearms, melee finishers, and traversal mechanics, while Diana provides real time support by hacking the environment and enemy robots to stun, overheat, or chain machines together. The game delivers an engaging, fun experience where everything feels intuitive. You spend your time exploring, solving environmental puzzles, platforming, and dealing with mandatory wave based combat encounters before hitting massive cinematic boss fights. The final story boss is a bit difficult, but it remains manageable because the enemy waves leading up to that point keep getting more intensive, which prevents the game from feeling repetitive or boring. The only slight drag on the fun meter is that running around trying to unlock electronic doors can feel a bit cumbersome and repetitive at times, though the main character actually acknowledges how annoying it is in his dialogue, which makes the repetition easier to swallow. Visually, the game is pure eye candy, delivering incredibly realistic graphics and amazing expressions on the faces of the characters. The lighting and reflections on the various surfaces are quite possibly the best I have ever seen in the interactive medium, and watching the flowy hair of the characters move naturally is a tech enthusiast dream come true. The only visual disappointment is that your custom outfits do not show up on the main menu screen, which forces you to look at the default gear every time you boot up the game instead of showing off your hard earned fashion. The customization itself is quite robust, offering a great variety of weapon upgrades, suit mods, and unlockable outfits that you can win through the cabin bingo machines. These outfits carry into the story cutscenes flawlessly, even adapting perfectly when the front hood opens up to reveal the face of your character. However, you cannot manually alter colors or fine tune individual pieces, and there are absolutely no visual customizations available for your weapons, meaning your guns will always look exactly the same regardless of how much power you pump into them. The combat is a slightly slower, deliberate affair that works beautifully to keep your stress and adrenaline incredibly high. A core part of this combat is a unique hacking mechanism that completely changes how you approach encounters against a wide variety of robotic enemies. The challenge stays high because you will get absolutely destroyed if you do not use every tool in your inventory, though the combat does become noticeably faster and more intense once you progress through the story and unlock better weapons. The only issue is that the game occasionally forces you to fight in very tight areas, which can cause the camera view to get trapped behind a wall or an object, though it is nothing major enough to ruin the experience. Before we get to the final breakdown, let me drop some essential tips for your survival. First, upgrade your default gun and your hacking mechanism attack power as soon and as much as you possibly can, because those tools will always be available when your specialized heavy weapon ammunition runs completely dry. Second, prioritize upgrading your healing canister count and the total healing amount, because you will run out of health supplies incredibly quick if smaller enemies decide to hoard up on you alongside a major boss. Third, do not rush through the zones. Take your time to move around and explore, because the extra upgrade materials you find are absolutely worth the effort. Finally, make sure to go through the various training sessions in shelter and the red zones in the main world, as that is the fastest way to finish your bingo stamps for rare items and outfits while leveling up faster due to the upgrade materials you earn at the end. This adventure is the absolute pinnacle of a single player experience, proving that Capcom still knows exactly how to deliver a cinematic masterpiece. The overall final score lands at a massive 96%, making this the pinnacle of a single player experience. Thank you so much for tuning into the channel. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to let me know. See you next time. Keep watching, keep playing. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to like the video, comment or subscribe for more. It really helps the channel out and I truly appreciate it a lot. Take care, keep watching and keep gaming.